Greetings, loved ones. How are you? Bienvenidos. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We are moving on to a new chapter, a new book, actually. And before I begin, I just want to say, but if you don't hear anything else, I want you to hear this. Please sign up for the Keymark Readathon. We have technically four amazing indie authors who want to help you knock 5 books off of your TBR this March. Rob J. Friggin' Hayes. Would you like him to be your team captain? Sure, why not? How about the mistress of gods and fighting men, Shauna Lawless? Or the most ebullient personality in all of bookdom, Andy Poloquin, who's the nicest guy ever, whose books are all about stabbing and murder and murder and murder. And you're like, how can it be like this? How could he be so nice and so filled with murder? And the answer is because you like it. We also have a fourth captain. Why this guy's a part of it, we have absolutely no idea. He knocked on the door. We let him in. We said, sure, no problem, buddy. The pudding is on its way. The link to join the readathon is right below you in the YouTube link. Please join us. I think we will have a grand old time with you there. And for anybody who wants to seriously knock books off of your TBR, this is a great way to do it. We have a lot of fun. So come and join us. As always, we begin with the Rooker Flynn Hall of Fame. Esme Roslin, Josh from Red Fury Books, Thiago Abdallah. Thank you all so much for everything you did to make this trilogy better than it could be on its own. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you. You are heroes of Keymark. Thank you. I'd also like to thank you to Andrew D. Meredith, who was the one who finally got me set up the right way so I can do this at home. So I'm very happy to be a part of his circle of people that he's feeding into. And so, Andrew, thank you very much. I appreciate you. And while we're on Andrew's Wizardly Reads, Kayla, mwah, you guys are wonderful. Thank you for the support. I appreciate you. All right. We are now moving on into The Execution of Rooker Flynn, the final book in the Locke Institute trilogy. All for it. I ain't again it. And just in case you're wondering, yeah, we're going to execute Rooker Flynn. I mean, it's in the title of the book. If you're like crossing your fingers and holding out hope, I don't mean to disabuse you of all your, Peter Pan notions of the way things ought to go. On his tombstone, on Rooker Flynn's tombstone, it will say he had it coming. So that's the important thing to remember about this. All right. So we're going to move on over into Audible, and we're going to fire that up. Audible's a great program. It's cheap. Works just fine. We have our hot tea. So let me go ahead and entertain you with the artsy fartsy vocal warm-up. What did it do to die today at a minute or two to two? A thing distinctly hard to say, but harder still to do. And the dragon will come when he hears the drum, a rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tum at a minute or two to two today, at a minute or two to two. All right, and I'm going to cover the basics. Let's jump in, shall we? For those of you who have read The Crimes and the Trial of Rooker Flynn, you're fine, obviously. If you haven't, you're not going to... Nothing about the prologue is going to completely ruin secrets to come later, so you're okay for this too. And maybe it's just fun to see one of these writers do his own audiobook. All right, I need to get a better image of the execution of Rooker Flynn. I've still got white space around it, so you'll just have to put up with it. But better looking at Rooker's very attractive mug, despite the fact that he's being hanged, than mine. All right. I will continue to drag my feet It's been 2.5 months since I did this. Let's see if I remember how. Prologue. Birth of a Pirate. Alone, alone, all alone. Alone on a wide, wide sea. Alone on a wide, wide sea. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Love is pure in the eyes of the young. There is nothing so bright as a child's love. It is whole, complete, boundless. A baby can love its mother with a single-minded zeal that cannot be found anywhere else in nature. A baby can love its mother with a single-minded zeal that cannot be found anywhere else in nature. A toddler's love for a puppy or a kitten can briefly outshine an adult's truest romance. Children experience love without fear of being hurt. Children experience love without the fear of being hurt. They remain blissfully ignorant of the truth. They remain blissfully ignorant of the truth that all things must end. Pippin Weinegrad's love was flawless. Inside the sea cave of Thimble Tower, the dancing green of a million pixies encircled the mysterious ship in a swirling halo of eldritch romance. A colossal catamaran, more grand and majestic than any craft he'd ever seen. She floated above the water on two long legs. A ship in the shape of an upside-down Y. Pip stood at the very center of her. Below her deck, her rounded belly, and her long legs that arched down to floating outriggers. Above, three long masts jutted skyward like arms, her tightly furled sails like a woman's blouse. I always get mixed up when I get to a woman's blouse. And at the very top sat her empty crow's nest, just waiting for someone to brave the climb. Someone just like me. Someone just like me. Yes. He heard the voice of the ship in his mind as if she were standing right behind him. He felt her melody in the brass rings she had offered him as a gift. He inhaled the scent of her timbers like a lady's perfume, the delicate ambrosia of elvish magic. She spoke to his very soul. She spoke to his very soul. Pip knew it was impossible. Pip knew it was impossible. Ships do not speak, not even in stories. He was freezing, starving, and exhausted. His brain was scrambled as an egg. The voice was only his imagination. Even so, her voice was the first Pip had heard since he'd been shipwrecked. Even so, her voice was the first Pip had heard since he'd been shipwrecked in the North Waste. I can pretend, can't I? I can pretend, can't I? Yes. The boy giggled, then laughed. A tremulous joy washed over him like ocean waves, endless, loud, and powerful. He jumped, exuberant, and wrapped his arms and legs around the mainmast, hugging the ship like a mother. Home! 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 The brass rings on his finger warmed. Home. Home. Hey! His Akita pup barked. His Akita pup barked. Hey! Hey! Pip realized he'd been hugging the mast forever. He blinked and shook his head. He was lost, shipwrecked, starving, and in danger of becoming prey. He could not afford to daydream. Rooker needed him. Rooker barked, spun in circles, and tried to catch the pixies that darted through the air. The little Akita's fur was iced over, but he didn't mind. The little Akita's fur was iced over, but he didn't mind. The dog seemed to enjoy the catamaran as much as Pip. Yeah? Yeah? You think we found a home, huh? Yeah? You think we found a home? Yeah, Rooker? Yeah? You think we found a home? Huh, Rooker? Yeah? You think we found a home? Huh, Rooker? We got a home? Rooker licked his face, excitedly agreeing with everything Pip said. Rooker licked his face, excitedly agreeing with everything Pip said. Pip thumped the dog's chest and took in his surroundings. The inside of Thimble Tower was dark and echoing, a huge sea cave 200 feet tall. Pip could just make out old designs and painted colors on the ceiling of the great cave. It was clear this place had been used. It was clear this place had been used as a sheltered berth, a hidden harbor in the North Waste, protected from the storms that raged outside. The water inside Thimble Tower was calm as a mill pond, an ideal place to hide a ship. So why isn't anyone here? Pip muttered. Judging from the dust on the deck, no one had been aboard in months. Years, maybe. Whatever happened to the previous crew, it had happened a long time ago. Plus, something else was wrong. Something Pip couldn't put his finger on. Come on, boy. Pip moved for a better look at the sea cave. Thimble Tower was almost completely enclosed. There was only one source of daylight, a single fissure 200 feet high that opened to the Iridan Sea like a parting curtain. That opened to the Iridan Sea like a parting curtain. An invitation to a new world. But the ship would never fit through it. The catamaran was too wide to make it through the crack. Half again as wide as the fissure. Half again as wide as the fissure. Half again as wide as the fissure. Pip blinked. He puzzled over it for a moment, but couldn't make sense of it. How did you get in here? There was no response from the ship. How did she get in here? Rooker cocked his head. The dog had no good answer either. Pip walked up and down the rail as if changing his perspective could solve the riddle. No matter how he looked at it, the catamaran would not fit. It might as well be a ship in a bottle. We would need some kind of crazy magic to reach the sea. Yes, the ship agreed. Rooker barked, tired of this puzzle. Pip's reverie broke as he realized it didn't matter. Even if he could get the ship out, he could never sail her by himself. It would take 10 men to hoist the sails alone, to say nothing of steering, tacking, and jibing. To say nothing of steering, tacking, and jibbing. Whatever fantasies he had of driving his new love out on the open sea evaporated. She was trapped here just as much as he was. A gilded bird in a hidden cage. Doesn't matter. She's mine. Yes. 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 All right, here we go. Pip adjusted his gigantic purple captain's hat and set himself to discovering something useful. The fore and aft lockers contained tools like adzes, riggers, mallets, boat hooks, beetles, and roping palms, along with assorted longbows, crossbows, and pikes. A giant harpoon bow was mounted fore and aft. Every dozen yards, a weapons barrel waited, filled with cutlasses and sabers. Pip strapped one onto his waist and felt his step become a swagger. Okay, now we're cooking. He could find no food on deck and glanced toward the hidden darkness of the ladders that led below. He was suddenly nervous, although he could not explain why. Peering at the details of the woodwork in the door frame, Pip saw a delicate wooden figurine of a bare-breasted woman. He kissed his fingers, touched her lips, and prayed for a bit of luck. Pip clapped one hand over one eye as Pip clapped one hand over one eye as Captain Roper John had taught him. Pip clapped one hand over one eye as Captain Roper John had taught him. He took a breath and descended below decks. When he uncapped his eye, his pupil was already dilated. It was an old seafarer's trick, one that allowed pirates to move from sunlight to shadow without pause. An excellent defense against ambush. Nothing waited for him below, no ghosts, no wraiths. Nothing waited for him below, no ghosts, no wraiths. Nothing waited for him below, no ghosts, no wraiths. No ghosts, no wraiths. Pip placed one hand on the bulkhead and listened. Nothing made a sound but the creak of the ship itself. He thumped Rooker. "Okay, boy." The Akita padded down the dusty passageway, sniffing. Pip followed, embarrassed. His dog was braver than he was. The galley had no food, not even moldy hardtack. All pots and pans were clean and bare. Every cabin was buttoned up in ship shape as if awaiting the crew's return. There was no ship's log, no paperwork in the captain's cabin, and even more strangely, no anchor anywhere on board. There were no skeletons, no bodies, no bloodstains. It was as if the crew had evaporated. It was as if the crew had evaporated. Did they just abandon you, girl? Did they just abandon you, girl? Did they just abandon you, girl? The ship did not answer, remaining a mystery. He came to the door at the end of a passage, placed a careful hand on the brass knob, and quietly turned it. Flickering light danced on the ceiling of a big round room. At the center, where a floor should be, a tremendous glass dome hung beneath the belly of the ship. The ripples on the ceiling were rays of light reflected from the water below. Pip laughed again, amazed. He circled around the catwalk that ringed the dome. He could see the entire sea cave around him. A comprehensive view, obstructed only by the ship's legs. A comprehensive view obstructed only by the ship's legs. It was the perfect lookout. Rooker sniffed at the big bowl and growled, not sure what to make of it. Pip eased over the side and slid into the glass bowl. His butt made a squealing sound against the glass. At the bottom was a trap door, round and clear. He found a clasp and slid it back. The trapdoor swung open and a mechanism caught, holding it open with a gentle click. Pip laughed. That's a good trick. That's a good trick. Hey, Rooker, watch this. Pip swan dove through the trap door. He dropped 20 feet, tucked into a roll, and flipped just before he hit. Cold water struck him and bubbles tickled past his face as he spun, weightless. Underwater, he laughed. Pip's head broke the surface. He tossed his hair back and saw Rooker pacing the trapdoor above, barking. Hey! Hey! Stay there, boy, I'm okay. Pip didn't want Rooker to jump down. Carrying the dog up the ship's leg had been difficult enough the first time. The beam was narrow and steep. It was the only part of the ship he didn't like. There was no good way to board her. Who built this thing? Crazy wizards? He scrambled onto a pontoon and climbed to the ship's leg. Dripping, he walked back to the dome to find Rooker worried and barking. It's okay, boy. I'm here. Let's get some food. A few minutes later, Pip dangled his legs through the trap door, a cane pole in his hand, angling for the school of cod that circled directly beneath him. Pip giggled. This is the best fishing hole ever. They cooked the fish over a real cast iron stove, drank fresh water from the pump, and slept in a real bed for the first time in 40 days. Pip snuggled one arm around the dog, one hand resting on the ship's bulkhead, making sure they were both real. Yes. 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 They lived like that for 3 days. When a lightning storm arrived outside, they stayed dry, protected by the walls and roof of Thimble Tower. Rooker ate as much fish as he could stomach and slept half the day away. Pip found a rope ball and spent the next day on the ship's deck playing fetch with Rooker, laughing and barking. From dawn to dusk, Pip puzzled over the mystery of how the ship had entered the cave, but came up with no answers. It didn't matter. They could survive here as long as they wanted. When he finally solved the puzzle, it was because of the dog. Let's see which one of those works best. Pause. Yay. Okay. So basically what I've discovered for doing this for a while is that, there are people. Hi, guys. Thank you. Carlos. Library on Legs. Hey, guys, thanks. Excited about the release of book 3. Okay, well, this is it. You can listen to the first chapter right now. It's probably not as good as what you're going to get in the actual audiobook with the, like, editing and stuff. Releasing the arcs as soon as it's done. I mean, hey, Library on Legs is Cinna. Cinna, you're so nice. You're the new JCM Byrne. You've been so supportive and helpful and sweet. I'm glad you had a good time with the book. So thank you very, very much. So the plan is with the arcs and whatever is job one is get the audiobook done, because that will get me out of the woods on the Locke Institute trilogy. I've had a great time. I finished writing the last word of The Execution of Rooker Flynn last Friday. I'm done. Wrap it up, moving on. So the idea is get the audiobook done and just release the audiobook now. And then probably a little bit before that, because the audiobook takes editing and everything. Hopefully, so the book itself, the written book, is with the line editor now. Line editor gets done, part 1, part 2, part 3. And then I make sure everything's kosher, and then I send it to Izzy, and she does the final proofread on it. And then it becomes an ebook, and that's when it'll go out as an ebook to the ARC readers. Probably that will be before the audiobook is done. But I would really like to be done recording the audiobook by the time we go on spring break. It would be nice to have it put to bed, celebrate properly with some añejo like Rooker would do. But also so I can start working on getting out of the outline stage and into the writing stage for Aim of the Archer, which is next. All right, we're going to jump back in here. While I'm filling up some tea, here's some little facts and figures. Every chapter takes about 90 minutes to record. Yeah. Cinna, if you want to talk about audiobook recording at some point, let's just grab Carlos. The plans beyond the trilogy are Aim of the Archer. And we'll talk about that later. Recording the audiobook. Each chapter for me, and each chapter is around 4,000 words. It takes about 90 minutes to record. It takes another hour to edit it. It takes another hour to really edit it. And then it takes another half hour to give the final kisses on. So every chapter takes about 4 hours of labor. So don't sniff at what goes into an audiobook, because the people that do this for a living and do it well they're earning their dollars, folks. Because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, and there's really no good way to make it take less time. All right, back to, hey, I just need to say real quick, Alejandro Colucci does the covers on these things. 42 books in this world. 42 is the perfect number, so I'll work on it. Alejandro Colucci did the cover on this. I love Rooker's face. I try to avoid faces as much as possible in the art, like Legend of Black Jack. You get half of Jack's face is the most you'll ever get. And this is probably the most you'll ever get. I made sure the eye that you could see was closed. So, we're not revealing much, but that Mona Lisa smile going on Rooker's face is just about my favorite thing I've ever seen. All right. Out of here, into here, over to here, firing up Audacity again. Wait for the sump pump to clear. Sump pump clears. All right. Let's figure out how we get this ship free. Freedom is the theme, after all. Pip was fishing from the glass dome when a shark rooked a tuna off his line. The beast was a white hammerhead, hunting the ice for easy prey. Pip's rod was dragged from his hand, fell, and sank into the depths. Pip hurled curses at the shark, but the thing had caught scent of Pip's leavings and wanted more. Rooker barked his own curses. Rooker barked his own curses at the shark. Pip climbed out of the bowl and grabbed a new fishing pole from the catwalk, yelling at the hammerhead. "That's our fish! You don't rook our fish, dumb shark! You don't rook our fish, dumb shark!" Angry, Pip jumped back into the bowl. He meant to slide, but caught an ankle. Tumbled head over heels to the bottom and hit Rooker with one leg. And hit Rooker with one leg. And hit Rooker with one leg. The dog fell through the trap door. Gasp. Rooker landed nearly on top of the hammerhead with a four-legged splash. The fish took off as Rooker struggled back to the surface. Pip was at the edge immediately. No! 20 feet below, his dog paddled in the freezing sea as the white hammerheads circled back to investigate. Pip's heart caught in his throat. "Rooker! Rooker!" He almost dove in, but stopped himself at the last instant. That hammerhead'll have both of us before we swim. That hammerhead'll have both of us before we swim to either one of the outriggers. That hammerhead'll have both of us before we swim to either one of the outriggers. If Pip dove in, they'd both die. If Pip dove in, they'd both die. Rooker struggled to stay afloat and yelped. He could sense the shark closing in. "I'm coming!" Pip scrambled up the bowl and grabbed a hunk of curled rope from the catwalk. He threw himself back into the dome and skidded down the glass so fast he nearly fell through the trapdoor himself. "I'm coming!" He tied the rope off, but his knot was bad, and he had to start again. Pip could see through the glass beneath his feet where the shark circled his dog, growing more bold with each pass. He knotted the rope, then realized he had no way to haul Rooker back up. He knotted the rope, then realized he had no way to pull Rooker back up. Even if he could shimmy down the rope and grab Rooker, he wasn't strong enough to pull him back up. Not with one hand. And there was no good way to get a lasso around the dog. He threw the rope aside, hooked a leg inside the trapdoor, and lowered himself through the hole head first. Holding on with only his legs, Pip lowered himself as far as he dared, trying to reach his dog. "Rooker! Rooker!" It was too far. There was nothing he could do but watch as Rooker dog paddled, barking and pleading for him. "Down! Down! I have to get down there!" He felt brass rings warm against his finger, and he felt the brass rings warm against his finger, and the ship suddenly lurched, as if it had been, as if it had been, as if, as if, as if it had been, as if, as if it had been, as if it had been hit by a rogue wave. Pip's stomach dropped out from under him, but he did not fall. Almost as if the ship wouldn't let him go. Almost as if the ship would not let him go. Disoriented, Pip saw the cave wall move up. It rose faster and faster. His only thought was, the ship is sinking! The ship is sinking! No! What? No! What? No! 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 What? What? No! No! What? Pip heard the ship's timbers creak all around him, and he watched, unbelieving, as the outriggers spread apart. The catamaran stretched its legs like a living thing, widening its stance. As the wood unbent and uncurled of its own volition, the belly of the ship descended toward the water. The belly of the ship descended toward the water. Pip hung from the trap door, dumbstruck. It's going down? It's going down. The belly dome lowered until Rooker was only a few. I knew there had to be one in there somewhere. All right, what I'm doing right there is Chapter 0, correction note. Pip. So when your main character is Rooker Flynn, but Rooker is the dog's name, and you get the two of them together and switch names, inevitably you're going to get one of them wrong. So I just called Pip Rooker. You catch that when you go through with the audiobook. So that is now changed in the notes. The belly dome lowered until Pip was only a few feet above the sea. As the hammerhead made one last pass, Pip snatched Rooker's rope collar and hauled him aboard. As the shark lunged, he slammed the trapdoor shut and held Rooker tight. It's all right, boy. I'll never leave you. I won't. I'm here, Rooker. I'm here. The dog licked his face. Pip watched the hammerhead circle below him, too close to touch. Pip watched the hammerhead circle below him, close enough to touch. He glanced up at the strange and wonderful ship. You saved him. You saved him. I needed to go down and you went down. I needed to go down and you went down. I needed to go down and you went down. You really can hear me. You really can hear me. Yes. Yes. The timbers sighed. Pip felt the tingle of the wick inside the rings on his finger, felt the boat listening to him, watching him, waiting for him. What do you want? Free. 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 Pip felt the word inside him like a gentle breeze on his soul. He wanted the same thing. He'd wanted it all his life. He'd wanted it all his life. He rubbed dog slobber off his face. You went down. Pip slung Rooker over his shoulder and climbed out of the bowl. Pip slung Rooker over his shoulder and climbed out of the bowl. Pip slung Rooker over his shoulder and climbed out of the bowl. The expression on his face hopeful. Can you get up? Yes. Rooker ran above deck to discover now the sea cave walls were descending. The ship rose in the water, growing to her full height. Her belly dome lifted 10, 15, 20 feet above the sea. As her outriggers grew closer together, the ship got taller. Pip suddenly understood the puzzle of how she had gotten into the cave. She can be wide and fat if she needs to be close to the water. Or tall and skinny if she needs to. Pip eyed the giant fissure in the wall that led to the sea. She must have been almost straight up and down to have made it through that. Grinning, he gently placed his hand on the ship's deck wheel and stroked the smooth wood. Get up, girl. Pip felt the tingle in his brass rings as the ship's outriggers drew even closer together. He glanced at the dusty sails tucked into the spars above like bunting. Awaiting a long forgotten parade. Unfurl the mainsail. 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 Red silk billowed down like a red waterfall shimmering in the moonlight. Sails wickered against themselves, luffing as they fell, then snapped into place at the boom, ready for service. Out of absolutely nowhere, a gust of wind filled the cave. It whirled within the stone walls that surrounded the ship, conjured from nothing. Hair riffling over his face, Pip watched as little clouds of pixies were swept toward the sea, twisting like petite cyclones. Twisting like petite cyclones. At the very peak of all three topmasts, red pennants unfurled, whipping in the breeze, facing forward, ready to run. Let's get out of here, girl. 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 Free. 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 Blood-red sails snapped taut, and the ship darted forward like a hawk on the hunt. Rooker spun around the deck, barking as the breeze swelled to a pixie-streaked gale, and the catamaran shot straight toward the crack in Thimble Tower. Pip's eyes grew panicked as he realized she was still too wide to fit. No. The fissure rushed closer at an alarming speed. Up! Get up! The outriggers drew toward each other until they almost touched. Pip watched agog as the ship stood nearly straight up, impossibly balanced on the water like a little girl on tiptoes. Pip's heart thundered in his ears as the ship tilted to one side and threatened to keel over, but a puff of wind lofted her upright. And she passed through the fissure, balanced like a ballerina. And she passed through the fissure, balanced like a ballerina. Balanced like a ballerina. The magic ship emerged from her stone prison into a frost-bitten sea. Her sails full and vibrant crimson against the pale white of the world. Catching the first real wind she had felt in half a century, she bent to it. Pip screamed as the world tilted. The ship slowly toppled like a felled tree, certain to capsize. Rooker howled in terrified dismay. Pip grabbed the pup and held him tight. The ship's legs stretched out against the fall and leaned into the turn. Using the momentum, she hissed a fast arc against the waves as the outriggers compensated for her shifting weight. Her sails billowed full, and she hunkered down into a predatory stance and cut across the waves like a knife, leaving Thimble Rock behind. Free, 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 free. Splashed with frozen seawater, Pip raised a shout to the white sky in a yawp of victory. Splashed with frozen seawater, Pip raised a shout to the white sky in a yawp of victory. Rooker joined him, howling in full throat. Flying towards the edge of the world, Pip could feel the ship's song in his rings. Flying towards the edge of the world, Pip could feel the ship's song in his rings. Flying toward the edge of the world, Pip could feel the ship's song in his rings, in his ribs, in his gut. Let's try that again. Flying toward the edge of the world, Pip could feel the ship's song in his rings, in his ribs, in his gut, in his gut. A joyous choir of angels released it. A joyous choir of angels liberated at last. Rooker popped his front paws up on the rail and snapped at the whistling air, tongue lolling out one side. Free. Free. Beep, beep, beep. All right. Break time. All right. It gets us a little bit about halfway through the chapter. This one will take a little bit longer because it's 5,000 words. And it's got 4 sections, 4 acts to the little story I need to tell. Oh, delicioso. So the goal is to get this done before I go on spring break at the end of March. That gives me, 40 days. The readathon, by the way, if you're watching this right now, go join the readathon because it's going to be awesome. The link is in the description on YouTube. So that'll take up a little bit of time. I'm going to read a lot of good books. I know. Look, I'm just going to read one of every one of the captains. Andy Peliquin and I are starting with Shauna's Children of Gods Fighting Men. We're going to read that at the same time. And then I'll probably need to read another one of Rob's, which is, I'm not sure. And then I'm going to read one of Andy's and just enjoy that and have a good time with him. And that'll be 3 team captains. And then I'll probably read Lions of Al Rasan will be number 4. And then my 5th book will be, who knows, because there are people who want to read Lions of Al Rasan with me in the Discord. So there's like 9 people. So I was like, okay, let's read this during the readathon so I can hang out with people and talk about books with them. So I'll probably read Lions of Al Rasan right up front. Just so I don't keep any of them waiting while I'm going. I love Pip's voice. Pip's voice is just supposed to be, okay, gee, wouldn't that be great? Oh, I trust my older brother completely. Poor kid. Didn't really work out well for him. Stupid Jasper and his dumb face. Jasper was actually the hard one to develop because you had to make him sound different from Pip. So you just kind of came in, like the voice comes in through the top of your nose like this. And so that kind of how it, worked. And so you could differentiate between, hi, Goofy. And a little snarling, whatever Jasper is, 13-year-old. I figured Jasper was like 16 when he died. I figured he was murdered by the time he was 16. What software do you use? It is called Audacity, and it is cheap as dirt. It takes a little while to get used to, but it's simple enough where you get what you need. And am I paused? Yeah. It's simple enough where you get what you need. And quite frankly, I mean, we'll talk about this later if you want to, but I wouldn't try editing it. I would give it to a professional editor. I have edited professionally for several years, and you want to talk about an endless sea of time that's necessary to edit one of these things. So usually that's, if you can hand it off to a pro, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. And your performance is what matters. So focus on that rather than banging your head against a wall. Now, money is always the problem with these things, but if you have the ability to have someone edit it for you, do that. Lines of Al Rasan. Still trying to figure out Discord. Yeah, if you have zero computer skills, then definitely use your Audacity to record. Get a quality microphone. What I basically did was I didn't want a standing booth because they're very expensive. And so what I got was a 2-foot by 2-foot box that is all eggshell cartons on a dice has 6 sides, so 5 sides with one open. So sound is blocked from everywhere on here except for this hole that's opened up. So, and it works pretty well. Your background noise is a problem. If you've got planes, trains, automobiles, air conditioning, right? It's 12 degrees outside right now, and the heat to my house is off because I need to record. I should probably actually start again, shouldn't I? All right. Pip has found the Venture Brigand. They're finally united. There was a point to all the Pip suffering, wasn't there? Well, let's see if we can make him suffer some more. No, I wouldn't do that. Okay, here we go. The next 3 days were the best of Pippin Weingrad's life. A boy, his dog, and their ship. A perfect trio of adventurers skimming across the North Iridan Sea. They had no objective, no task to complete, no purpose but their own pleasure. Pip twirled the brass rings on his finger and simply told the ship where to go. She listened best. She listened best when he touched her deck wheel, but she could hear him from anywhere, even when he swam in the icy sea. Even when he swam in the icy sea. Most days he just let her run. Most days he just let her run. Cruising lazy circles through the Northwest. She skated over the water, leaning into the turns. Rooker spent most of his time down on the outriggers, barking and snapping at the sea spray as it flew by. Barking and snapping at the sea spray as it barking and snapping at the sea spray as it flew by. Occasionally catching a flying fish. They ate together, traveled together, and slept under the stars together. Three crimson pirates upon a white sea. Whenever he wasn't Whenever he wasn't at the wheel, Pip explored the ship. The wood was unlike anything he'd ever seen. It shifted colors from darkest mahogany to lustrous cherry to a silvery white. All of it inscribed. All of it inscribed. Pip could not find a single seam or joint in the entire vessel. It was as if she had been carved from a single piece of wood. Some colossal tree from another world. Some colossal tree from another world. Sculpted into her skin was a never-ending story told in carved tableaus. A tale of the moons and sun, the birth of Keymark, of satyrs, tidal waves, giants, curling winds, griffins and dragons, all sculpted real as life. As Pip examined the carvings, he came to a part of the story with a boy who looked remarkably like him. He peered closer. Sump bump. Okay, some pump over. The markings were still pale, as if they had been graven yesterday with an artist's hand. With an artist's hand. At the boy's side was a dog that looked like a tan Akita with mismatched eyes. Behind the boy and the dog, 3 sails filled the breeze, each marked with the same sigil. Pip read the marking. Flynn. Flynn? Flynn. Pip tilted his head and looked at the riffling sail. Pip tilted his head and looked up at the riffling sails. Is that your name? Flynn? Flynn? She sighed warmly, and Pip felt the magic purr within his rings. Flynn. Pip stared out at the sea, patting Rooker's head. I like that name. I like that name. I like that name. He considered. But you can't tell anyone your real name, girl. It gives them power over you. It gives them power over you. Pip didn't know much about magic, but he'd heard that warning from Roper John enough times. We can't call you Flynn. It's dangerous. You need a bandit handle. Rooker barked agreement. See? Rooker knows. You want a nickname, Flynn? It sounded almost as if the ship were laughing. the cry of gulls above. Yes, yes. A good name, a pirate name. A name for treasure hunts and scalawags and rebels. A name for treasure hunts and scalawags and rebels who cross the Iridan Sea with no one to stand in their way. An outlaw name. No, not an outlaw. A brigand. A brigand. A brigand. The Venture Brigand. Pip grinned. You like that? She laughed again. Yes. Rooker barked and spun in a circle. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Pip brandished his cutlass and ran to the foredeck. Rooker followed, barking happily. Pip could barely see through the thick white fog that hid them from the world. Pip could barely see through the thick white fog that hid them from the world. It was a blank piece of canvas, and he could see their future painted on it. They'll sing songs about the three of us. Long ones, loud ones, loud ones, loud ones. Rooker jumped into his open arms and licked his face. Pip wrapped his arms around the dog and glanced up at the sails. Pip wrapped his arms around the dog and glanced up at the sails. Up until this moment in his life, his only companions had been a father with nothing to give. His only companions had been a father with nothing to give, a brother who stabbed him in the back, and a pirate who took him as a slave. But now, joined by the dog and the ship, Pip Weingrad had everything he ever wanted. Here he was, beloved and free, surrounded by the only thing he'd ever wanted. I think you overstate it. I don't like that double wanted. We're going to change that to everything in the world. But now joined by the dog and the ship, Pip Weingrad had everything in the world. Here he was, beloved and free, surrounded by the only thing he'd ever wanted. A family. A family. A family. A family. A family. A family. All right, we'll see if any of those work. Pause. All right. 11:15. So we started at 10. We're now 75 minutes in, which means I ought to be able to finish up part 4 in the next 15 minutes. So if you're going to record an audiobook, the most important thing you can do is hot tea, because this loosens up your vocal cords and lets you have a little bit of range. And you need it, because you need a lot of up and a lot of down. All right. Back into the fun. Let's break some hearts. Like the cruel and vindictive son of a bitch I am. But not in real life, just to these people. Just before dawn on the third day, the ice storm came. White clouds became sleet, sleet became fog, and fog became a whiteout. The only color in the world was the venture brigands' red sails. Pip and Rooker slept in the captain's bed, snuggled together under half a dozen blankets. Rooker stood up and barked. Hush, grumbled Pip. Come back to bed, it's cold. Rooker padded up the stairs. Groaning, Pip cursed and followed the dog above deck, wishing he'd put on boots. Sleet and mist slathered the air. Whiteness was all. Pip's eyes adjusted to the light to find Rooker at the prow. Pip's eyes adjusted to the light to find Rooker at the prow, barking into the empty void. Pip thumped the dog's ribs. Stop it. It's cold out here. Stop it. It's cold out here. Ahead, a slash of orange split the sky like a giant shark's fin. Another sail. Pip staggered backward and nearly fell, crashing into Rooker. He recognized the colors of the other ship. It was a shaver vessel. His old pirate gang. Pip grabbed the deck rail and watched the sail come right for him. There was no time for either ship to turn. They were going to hit. Pip sprang for the deck wheel. He spun it as hard as he could and screamed, "Starboard! Go starboard!" The venture brigand cut hard, but her outriggers struck the shaver ship. Wood squealed and snapped as the two ships traded splinters. Rooker barked madly, trying to frighten off all the noise. Pip heard several men scream in the other boat. Something hit the water with a splash. Pip jerked the wheel only to discover Pip jerked the wheel only to discover two more sails ahead. Pip jerked the wheel only to discover two more sails ahead. He'd driven right into a shaver convoy. The pup whined, his ears flat, tail down, terrified. Pip rubbed his side, thumping him as they passed the second ship. Hey, we're okay, boy. We're okay. They won't get us. Rooker snarled like a wolf, suddenly angry, and disappeared into the mist. Pip sprinted after him and found the Akita leaning over the waist of the ship, barking at the water. Stop! It's okay, boy. It's okay. A grapple hook was sunk into the outrigger. A rope trailed behind it. Pip's head came up just in time to see the buccaneer emerge from the mist, climbing the Venture Brigand's leg. He leapt onto the deck. The shaver was shoeless, tattooed, and bore a stiletto. The shaver was shoeless, tattooed, and bore a stiletto in his teeth. His body was caked in frost. His hair iced white. Burp. He charged Pip. Rooker threw himself at the pirate like a snarling wolverine. His sharp teeth sank into the man's forearm. He cried out and dropped the stiletto. As Rooker savaged the pirate, Pip grabbed a sword from the cutlass bucket. He charged to help, but the pirate slipped a blackjack from his belt. and smashed the lead-weighted sap into the dog's head. Rooker hit the deck, yelping pain. Rooker! Screaming, Pip charged. The pirate grabbed his stiletto. Pip nearly took his hand off with the sword. For a moment they faced off, man and boy, circling. Pip reared back with a cutlass and swung. The pirate snatched his wrist and smashed his elbow into Pip's eye. Stunned, Pip hit the ground with the pirate on top of him. Rooker threw himself at the man. He tore at the pirate's neck, savage sounds roaring from the dog's throat. A sudden yip of pain, and Rooker fell to the deck whimpering. Rooker! Pip screamed and bit the pirate's ear. Something smashed him in the side of the head. He hit the deck, not sure which way was up. Rooker lay beside him. The dog's mismatched eyes staring at him. Pip reached out for the pup. His eyes fluttered and everything went dark. When he woke, pirates occupied his ship. Dozens of shavers looted the lockers. Most were scraggy freebooters exclaiming at their unexpected luck. Above, the brigands' silk sails hung dead slack as if weeping. Not a puff of wind disturbed them. Most of the whiteout had gone, leaving a flat gray sky feathered with misty ghosts. The shaver he had been fighting was nowhere in sight. The shaver he had been fighting was nowhere in sight. Gone too was his dog. Gone too was his dog. Gone too was his dog. Rooker? 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 Pip sat up and found a hairy fist in his chest. "Stay down! Stay down!" yelled an ugly shaver. The pirate was almost on top of him. Pip could smell the reek of his rotten mouth. Where is he? Pip snapped at him. The pirate barked. "Captain Tanaka! Captain Tanaka! Kids up!" Muscled and thick, a figure loomed over him. His mustache was neatly braided to his jaw, his skin pale and marked with orange paint. Atop his head, he wore Pip's favorite hat, the purple one with the feather. He grabbed Pip by the shirt. "Ho, ho, ho, ho. We'll go with Jabba. We'll go Jabba. Ho, 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 ho. How'd you do that?" Pip looked past the captain, searching the deck. Where's my dog? Where's my dog?" The captain dragged him closer. "There's no one else on board. How are you sailing her?" "Where's my dog?" Pip screamed in his face. You call me Captain Tanaka." He threw Pip to the deck. "And I'm asking the questions." The captain scratched under the purple hat and squinted at Pip. How'd you get your hands on this beauty, huh? And why is she such a bitch?" Pip ignored Tanaka, scanning the deck. He didn't see Rooker anywhere. 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 She won't sail for my boys. She won't sail for my boys." Tanaka pointed at two pirates fighting at the deck wheel. Another fought the jib, trying to tack into the wind with no success. 30 years at sea between them. 30 years at sea between them, and they can't pay. 30 years at sea between them, and they can't catch a puff of wind. It's like trying to steer a brick tavern. But you... Tanaka squinted at Pip. "You made her run like a jackrabbit. You made her run like a jackrabbit. Shot right past us. Shot right past us. If old Nix hadn't caught you by the tail, you'd be halfway to the twist by now. All without a crew. He leaned in. Now, how'd you do that, boy chick? It's my ship. It's my ship. Pip straightened. She listens to me. Yes. 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 He heard her timbers creak. Toughen up. Pip fingered his rings and pressed them into his palm. Bring me my dog, or I swear this ship is never going to move again. Bring me my dog, or I swear this ship is never going to move again. Captain Tanaka scowled at him. He got to his feet and muttered to himself, angry, pacing back and forth. He traded a few words with the pirates who were unsuccessfully trying to make the brigand. He traded a few words with the pirates who were unsuccessfully trying to make the brigand. He traded a few words with the pirates who were unsuccessfully trying to make the brigand heel. He turned back to Pip, and a cunning smile crossed his lips. All right, boy chick, you want your dog? All right, boy chick, you want your dog? He's right over there. He's right over there. He pointed. He pointed. He pointed. Half a mile distant, Pip saw another trio of orange-sailed shavers cruising the sea. Tanaka relaxed against the deck rail. Them fellas liked your dog so much they brought him on board. Wanted him for a ship dog. Pip saw the captain eye another pirate. You want him, little shaver? You want your dog, little shaver? He scratched his stubble with his dagger. Go fetch him. Rooker. Pip leapt to his feet and ran to the deck wheel. It spun easily in his hands, responsive to his touch. The air around him suddenly gusted and filled the brigand's sails tight. Pip's black hair twisted in the breeze as he cut hard a port and angled for the distant ships. That one? The captain eyed the sails, impressed. I think so. Tanaka lit his pipe and puffed at the stem, watching him closely. What's your name, boy chick? Pippin Weingrad was not about to give Tanaka his true name. But he'd never had an alias other than Pip. But he'd never had an alias other than Pip. He felt the brass rings around his fingers. Flynn. 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 Tanaka nodded. All right, then. All right, then. All right, then. When Pip came alongside the shaver vessel, the crew seemed confused. When Pip came alongside the shaver vessel, the crew seemed confused. They claimed they hadn't seen a dog, much less taken one on board. Tanaka hollered at them for being drunk and demanded Pip describe the animal so they would remember it. Pip told them of Rooker's curved tail, the way he tilted his head and his mismatched eyes. After some encouragement from the captain, one of the sailors blinked. "Oh yeah, that dog." He eyed Tanaka, grinning. We didn't get him, but I think the balconette did. We didn't get him, but I think the balconette did. Right, Punch? Right, Punch? Right, Punch? Yeah, it's over there. Over there. Pip followed the next ship. When they didn't have Rooker, he sailed to the next. By that time, the shaver convoy had met up with a 20-ship flotilla of cartel ships looking to trade plunder. Looking to trade plunder. During 2 days of trading, Pip boarded nearly every single boat searching for Rooker. The dog had been traded for a ham. Adopted by a woman won in a card game. Shavers laughed when Pip boarded, and soon enough the cartel joined in. Rooker! Rooker! They hollered back at him, mocking. Rooker! Rooker! They hollered back at him, mocking his high voice. Rooker! 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 Where's the dog? One laughed. Don't worry, lad, said Captain Tanaka. We'll find him. If you're piloting this ship, we'll find him. After the trading flotilla broke up, he chased a rumor that Rooker was on the Albatross. Then the rhyme, then the Hysteria Ray. Then then the Wisteria ray. Pip never quit looking. Pip never quit looking. Not after a dozen ships, not after 30. Hunting down ship after ship. Hunting down ship after ship. Hunting down ship after ship. Tanaka even attacked a few he suspected of stealing the dog. But Rooker was always on the next ship, and the next, and the next. Pip knew if he only looked hard enough, he could find him. He believed it. He believed it. For as long as he could. For as long as he could. He never let the shavers see him cry. He never let the shavers see him cry. He was too tough for that. He was too tough for that. But at night, he would rock on his side weeping. He would rock on his side weeping He would rock on his side weeping an endless flood of raw pain that his only friend was gone. His silent tears disappeared into the Venture Brigand's wood, becoming part of her. Along with the lost little boy's cries. Along with the lost little boy's cries. Along with the lost little boy's endless cries of alone, 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 alone. Sump pump. Hey, if you're still watching, we're going to break your heart right here. Alone, 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 alone. She rocked him softly in the night, whispering comfort in his ear, whispering comfort in his ear. Shh. One of those out of a minute ago. And so Pip whispered to his ship, one night after another, a million thoughts and fears and emotions piled on top of each other until the boy buried himself in an avalanche of words. Until the boy buried himself under an avalanche of words. Until the boy buried himself beneath an avalanche of words. She listened to every one. Rooker Flynn never told that story. Not to Jack, not to anyone. Not to Jack, not to anyone. The secret of how his pirate name came to be. He stole his alias. He stole his alias from the only two creatures that ever loved him. A living ship and the ghost of a dog. And the ghost of a dog. And the ghost of a dog. Pippin Weingrad died too that winter. Although no one could tell you exactly when. Only the venture brigand was left to mourn him. Rooker Flynn refused to remember the boy. Rooker Flynn refused to remember the boy. Rooker Flynn refused to remember the boy or the dog. Neither brought him anything but pain. All right, that gets us going. We're all set. 11:43. Wow. Well, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate you. A view for the process. This is how it goes. Obviously, if you want a better storytelling experience, the audiobook, the finished audiobook, is a better way to go. But I did want to share this. I'll probably share the first two chapters before we start getting into major spoiler territory. I'll just tell you the God's honest truth. Execution of Rooker Flynn is the best of the trilogy. So if you've enjoyed the other two, you're in for a hell of a ride, boys and girls. A hell of a ride. So yeah, I'll probably, I got to keep going. So boom, boom, boom. So I'll probably be back tomorrow night. It's like I got 40 days for 25 days worth of work. So I got to work and work and work. So anyway, thank you guys very much. I appreciate you. And join the readathon. No screwing around. Just do it. You will have a great time. We've done like 6 of these, and each one has been better than the last. So thank you for hanging out with me. Hugs and kisses. Adios, loved ones.